You ever notice how personal finance is one of those few areas in life where people can be completely confident about something and completely wrong about it at the same exact time? You hear one thing on TikTok, another thing from your crazy uncle or crazy aunt at Thanksgiving. Then you watch a 30-second clip on Instagram from some Chad standing next to a Lamborghini. And now you're sitting there completely confused because there doesn't seem to be one clear path to obtaining financial freedom in your life. And I'll be the first to admit that there are a lot of ways to achieve the dream that almost everyone is striving for, which is waking up one morning and not having to constantly think about money anymore. But here's what I want to do in this video. I want to give you what I believe to be the simplest, most cookie cutter way to start working towards that goal to be financially free. I want to break down some of the most misunderstood concepts in personal finance so you can take what I'm saying, compare it against what you've heard before, challenge it against what you currently believe around money, and then decide for yourself what actually makes sense for your life. I want Gen Z to start thinking about money differently and being able to ask the right questions regarding money topics and to just overall become more financially literate. I made a video a while back about how I believe we are in a financial literacy crisis, and if anything, I think it's getting worse. So I want to be one of the voices on this platform to help knock down the barriers that could be holding you back from understanding some of the core personal finance topics. Because you got people on the internet saying debt is always bad and you need to get out of it immediately. You've got people saying credit cards are evil and they're just destroying your finances. Cough, cough, Dave Ramsey and all that boomer advice. Then you've probably got your parents claiming that you need to buy a house immediately because renting is throwing away money. Meanwhile, your parents bought their house back in 1980 for like $50,000. And then you got some people saying investing is basically glorified gambling and the markets are rigged and the system is all fucked. There's just so much more out there that eventually you get overloaded and don't know what to believe anymore. Let me know if that's you because I literally felt this way for years. So take a deep breath because I'm going to break down all these concepts in the most bare bones way possible and tell you what I personally think is just misunderstood financial advice. Most of you guys probably know my background by now, but I'm just a 27-year-old electrical engineer who, over the last 4 years, has stuck to what I've shaped into my own personal finance principles and have built a net worth of $393,000 by following a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about in this video. But you know what the best part about all this is? You can take everything I'm talking about and use all of it. You can use some of it, or you can use absolutely none of it. I'm not sitting here acting like I have every answer. I just want to get the conversation started and get you thinking about finances at a much earlier age because I think a lot of us wish we would have started asking these questions earlier. But obviously, if you take every single word I say in this video as absolute truth and completely shut your brain off, I'm going to face palm myself and be like, bruh, challenge what I'm saying, compare it against what you've heard before, think critically, and figure out what actually works in your life. Because at the end of the day, there is not one perfect path here. So here's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to break down spending money in your 20s, debt discussions, retirement investing, and renting while you're young. Because I want money to become a little less stressful for all of you watching this. And these are some of the most important financial discussions, in my opinion. And as you're watching this video, let me know down in the comments what your take is on some of these topics. Let's get into it. The first misunderstood finance topic that I want to talk about is spending money in your 20s, because this one gets butchered online all the time. I'm sure you have people in your life telling you that your 20s are for experiences and you should travel the world, you should say yes to everything and just live it up because you're only young once. Then on the other side, you've got the finance geeks telling you to eat rice and beans, drive a 1998 Honda Civic with no working AC, because buying a nice car would be a waste of money, and those same people are telling you to invest every single dollar. I don't know if I'm completely botching this reference, but that comparison almost feels like the whole red pill versus blue pill thing from The Matrix, where you have two directions to go with this. And before y'all roast me in the comments, I've actually never seen that movie. I've just seen that in Instagram Reels or whatever. But regardless, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to pick either side because I think both sides can be kind of stupid with regards to discretionary spending in your 20s. Your 20s are weird, man. They're probably going to be one of the most confusing decades of your life. You're making more money than you ever have before, but you're also probably not making as much money as you eventually will. And you're nowhere near your peak earning years. You're trying to figure out your career. Maybe you move to a new city. Maybe you're trying to date, build friendships. And somehow through all of this, you're supposed to have your finances figured out too. Nobody really tells you what the balance is. I'll tell you what my take is because it's pretty simple. I spend money on things that genuinely bring me joy and fulfillment, and I cut the spending as best as I can on stuff that I probably won't care about 5 years from now. I think one of the biggest mistakes people can make in their 20s is spending money uncontrollably and letting lifestyle inflation slowly wreck their finances without even realizing it. I'll give you some examples of traps I fell into in my early 20s. I used to spend so much money going out to bars from like 22 to 24 years old, and I'd spend $8 on some vodka Red Bull drinks, and the next thing you know, I'm 4 drinks deep, and now I need an Uber home, and I wake up feeling like absolute garbage the next day. I still don't mind going out here and there, but looking back, I probably didn't need to go that hard right after starting my career, if that makes sense. While I had some good times with friends, I probably could have saved a lot of money just having a few beers beforehand and then limiting my spending once I got out. Another simple one was clothes. I'd buy new clothes and shoes way too often when I could have just gone somewhere like Nordstrom Rack and gotten quality stuff for way cheaper. I can't really think of some massive spending mistake that I made, but for me, it was more like death by a thousand cuts. Just a bunch of small purchases over and over again that slowly ate away at the money I could have invested or saved. Now, for me personally, I love spending money on travel and hobbies like golf, skiing, camping, because I get way more fulfillment from that stuff. I'll spend money on experiences and creating memories because 10 years from now, I'm probably not going to remember some random Amazon package showing up at my front door or remember how amazing that overpriced drink tasted at the bar. This is where I think the misunderstanding comes in. People hear financial freedom and immediately assume it means never spending money. I don't believe that at all. A part of financial freedom, at least to me, is being able to spend money on things that actually improve your life and bring meaning to it without feeling stressed every time you open your banking app, while at the same time still prioritizing investing and saving for the future. Your 20s aren't for saving every single penny, but they're also not a free pass to YOLO your future away either. There's a middle ground here that almost nobody talks about, and I think learning how to live in that middle ground is one of the most important financial skills you can develop in your 20s. The next misunderstood finance topic I want to talk about is debt, because people online discuss debt like it's this giant monster hiding under your bed waiting to destroy your life. You'll hear people scream that all debt is bad, all debt is evil, that you need to become debt free immediately no matter what. And I get where that advice comes from because debt absolutely can wreck your finances if you're not careful. But I think this topic is oversimplified way too much because not all debt is created equal. I think there's a massive difference between taking on debt that has the potential to improve your future and taking on debt to fund a lifestyle that you can't actually afford. For example, if somebody took out student loans and used them to get a degree that has a strong return on their investment, let's think like engineering, nursing, finance, if you go to med school, something that can dramatically increase your earning potential. That's going to be a very different conversation than taking out debt for something that doesn't move your life forward financially. I mean, I took out student loans myself and became an electrical engineer. And while I definitely wasn't thrilled seeing $30,000 of starting debt sitting right there when I graduated college, the investment paid for itself because it increased my earning potential dramatically. Same thing goes with a mortgage. If you can buy a home that you can afford and you're not pouring a bunch of money into it, that debt is attached to an asset that will appreciate over time. Again, it's a completely different conversation than swiping a credit card every weekend because life got expensive and now you're paying more than 25% interest on your discretionary spending. If there's one type of debt I really want people to be careful with, it's high interest debt. Credit card debt, especially, can become an absolute nightmare because it can compound against you in the wrong direction. You tell yourself, it's only a couple $1,000s. And then small interest starts stacking on top of interest, and suddenly you feel like you're sprinting on a treadmill that keeps on getting faster. And if you're watching this right now with debt hanging over your head, first off, just take a breath. There are a lot more people carrying debt than you probably realize. There's student loans, car loans, credit card loans, personal loans. A lot of people are trying to navigate this stuff. Feeling ashamed about it does not fix anything. Instead of panicking, I want you to create a plan. I want you to sit down, write out every debt that you have, the balances, the interest rates, and decide how you want to attack it. You can use the avalanche method where you knock out the highest interest rates first, which mathematically saves you more money, or you can go the snowball method and start paying off the smallest balances first because getting those early wins can give you the momentum and motivation. I don't think the perfect strategy matters as much as people think. The important thing is just picking one and sticking with it. Becoming debt free usually isn't a giant heroic moment where you wake up and all your finances are fixed. It's a bunch of boring little decisions repeated over and over. Spending a little less here, making an extra payment there, picking up extra income, cutting back for a season. Small changes that honestly are not going to feel much in the moment, but over time, these decisions can completely change your financial future. And here's where I think the misunderstanding is. Debt isn't automatically a sign that you screwed up your life. Sometimes debt was an investment. Sometimes debt was a mistake. Sometimes life just happened. But regardless of how you got there, what matters now is taking a breath, making a plan, and slowly moving forward. The next misunderstood finance topic that I want to talk about is retirement investing. Because for some reason, there's this idea floating around that saving for retirement in your 20s is not that important. People act like retirement is some distant problem for your 40 or 50-year-old self to figure out later. You'll hear people say things like, bro, I'm young, I'll worry about that later, or I'll start investing once I make more money. And I get why people think that because when you're 23 years old and retirement is 40 years away, it feels about as real as worrying about what kind of walker you're going to use when you're 80. But this is one of the biggest misunderstandings in personal finance, in my opinion, because your 20s are actually one of the most powerful times to invest for retirement. And it has almost nothing to do with how much money you make, it has everything to do with time. When you're in your 20s, you have something older people would pay ridiculous amounts of money to have, and that is more time in the market. Time is your cheat code. Time is the thing that allows compounding interest to put the team on your back. Think of compounding interest like Marshawn Lynch when he was on that beast mode run against the Saints. Just unstoppable. Everyone wants to talk about investing returns and finding the perfect ETF, but if I'm keeping it at a buck, starting your investing journey early should be your number one investing priority. Then you should focus on maximizing your investment returns. Another thing people forget is that your 20s are usually the most aggressive investing years of your life. If you're investing for retirement and you're in your 20s, you've got decades ahead of you. The market is going to crash at some point, and you're going to see pullbacks and maybe a couple of recessions in your lifetime. And yeah, that can sound pretty fucking scary at first. But when retirement is 30 or 40 years away, you have all that precious time on your side to ride those waves out. You can afford to be aggressive because you have time on your side again. So that's why I love investing in tech and growth ETFs right now because who cares if there's a bubble soon? I'm just going to be buying the dip because I'm a long term investor and I'm not going to live off this money for another 30 or 40 years. Here's another thing I don't think gets talked about enough. For a lot of people, your 20s are also when your lifestyle expenses are probably the lowest they're ever going to be. Maybe you don't have a mortgage yet. Maybe you don't have kids yet. Maybe you're not paying for daycare or family vacations or all that stuff that starts showing up later in your life. And obviously, everyone's situation is different, but for majority of people watching this, this is one of the few windows where you are actually going to have extra room to build a solid and strong investing foundation. If I had to say the biggest reason why I'd start investing early, it isn't even about the money. It's building the habit of investing and building the financial literacy at such an important time in your life. Because let's say you start investing a few $100s a month at 23 years old. You are teaching yourself really good investing discipline. You're teaching yourself that investing is just something that you do every month, no matter whether the market is up, whether it's down, whether it's sideways. Then your income starts to go up. You get promotions. You might switch jobs. And maybe you could double your salary over the next 10 years. Now, instead of trying to suddenly learn financial discipline at 33, you've already built and developed that muscle years ago. That habit is already there. I think people misunderstand retirement investing because they don't see the big picture and have the end in sight. Retirement investing is really boring and nothing to write home about. I don't know about me, but I haven't seen a lot of people getting stoked to invest in their 401k, invest in their Roth IRA, their HSA, but it is something that needs to be done if you want to be financially free later in life. It's small amounts of money invested over a very long period of time with a lot of patience mixed in, but boring works in the long run. Now, the last misunderstood finance topic that I want to talk about is renting while you're in your 20s compared to buying a house. Somewhere along the way, people started acting like renting is automatically just throwing your money away, and if you don't buy a house as soon as humanly possible, you're somehow falling behind in life and your finances are going to take a big hit. Again, you've probably heard it before. Renting is throwing away money. Man, people say that like it's written into the Constitution or something. And yes, I understand that renting is not putting money towards equity in an asset, and I'm not completely anti home ownership at all. I absolutely want to own a house someday. I think owning a home can be a great financial decision for a lot of people because it becomes one of their biggest diversified assets. But I think the misunderstanding is believing that buying a house immediately is always the right move, especially when you're in your 20s. I've seen people get themselves stretched ridiculously thin with their finances trying to force home ownership way too early. They rush into it, they max out what a lender says they can afford, and suddenly they're house poor. Just because the bank says you can afford a payment does not mean you should be making the payment. Those are two completely different conversations to have with yourself. Now, instead of having flexibility, every paycheck is already getting sunk into the house. You have a mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, random repairs. Because trust me, Houses have a funny way of deciding to break at the worst possible times. Your water heater does not care that you were trying to invest more this month, and your HVAC unit certainly doesn't care that you were trying to max out your Roth IRA this year. Meanwhile, when you're in renting, life is honestly way simpler. Something breaks, that's not your problem. There's a value in the low maintenance lifestyle that I think gets overlooked, especially in your 20s when life can change fast for you. When you're young, things, again, can move really quick on you. Maybe you get a better job opportunity in a new city. Maybe you switch industries. Maybe you want to move closer to friends and family. Renting gives you the flexibility, and the flexibility in your 20s can be incredibly valuable. And then there's the down payment conversation that people conveniently gloss over. Buying a house usually requires a pretty massive amount of cash up front. Unless you're getting help from your parents, it's just a lot of money to throw down at once. You're talking about down payment, closing cost, moving cost, buying furniture for the place, random house stuff that you didn't even know existed. Because I feel like owning a house can mean suddenly spending so much time and money at Home Depot every weekend for reasons nobody can explain. There's a lot of money that can otherwise be used to build an emergency fund, pay off high interest debt, invest, or just getting yourself more breathing room financially. I think that the part that gets ignored because social media makes buying a house feel like some finish line everyone is racing towards in their 20s. So here's the misunderstanding: homeownership should not be a race. Renting should not automatically mean losing. Buying isn't automatically winning. The goal isn't to own a house as fast as possible. The goal is to build a life where your finances can support the lifestyle that you want. If buying a house makes sense financially and personally, great, go for it. But if renting allows you to invest aggressively in your 20s, avoid getting stretched thin, staying flexible, and building a strong financial foundation first, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going that way either. I'd rather rent for a few extra years than buy a house when I'm genuinely ready, rather than just rush into one because I felt pressured to by society. So that's all I have for this video. I know this is a longer one, so for those of you who stayed all the way to the end, you have an awesome attention span, and thank you for supporting the channel. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on these topics that I covered today. And also let me know down in the comments if you want me to cover any video ideas in particular for my future videos. As always, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.